Welcome to Fans Pulse Lap 2 of episode 14. Hope you've enjoyed our previous segment. We were joined by Northampton Foxes co-promoter Tony Gall as we caught up on all the key challenges over the winter to bring the Foxes to tapes for their debut campaign. Good luck to them. Let's begin with offering our congratulations to Ben Cave, who's an Ipswich supporter, our latest winner for March of a Speedway Experience Day, courtesy of our friends at AMSA, the Amateur Motorcycle Speedway Academy. Congratulations, Ben. I know Ben's been in touch with AMSA to arrange his Experience Day at the Scunthorpe mini track. We have now launched our AMSA Experience Day for the month of April. Have a look at our Facebook page. You'll find a post pinned right to the very top. All you've got to do is nominate yourself or someone else, and at the end of April we will draw one lucky winner. Okay, let's get stuck in then to Fans Pulse Lap 2. Over the course here on 360 Speedway, sometimes we have tackled, we have tackled a whole variety of different discussion topics. Some that you 360 Speedsters have suggested to us. Thank you very much, and please continue to do that. Message us, email us, WhatsApp us if you have an idea for a future discussion topic. And sometimes a hot discussion just falls right into our lap. And that's been the case this very week. Many of you will have read a couple of threads on social media around rider insurance as provided on their behalf historically by Speedway authorities or certainly by clubs. We're going to have a look at this now, and I've done a little bit of research in my usual way. I suspect that Carol and Nigel will have some inside knowledge on the mechanics of all of this. So I'm not going to say that we're going to resolve it or come to a particular conclusion, but we just want to run the rule over it and hopefully shine a little bit of a torchlight into this issue. So this was all brought about brought to the public attention by Plymouth Gladiator Ben Barker, who's a friend of 360 Speedway, a person that I like Ben. Good evening, Ben, if you're watching. And it all seemed to follow on directly from the events at Wimborne Roads last Friday night, I think it was, where Tobias Thompson unfortunately was injured and is in hospital. Our best wishes to you, Toby, for a quick recovery, and also to Charles Wright and Adam Ellis, who are also sidelined sadly at the moment. What seemed to evolve on that discussion on social media was that there was an identified change as far as I can establish, and a lot of confusion, it must be said, amongst riders. It's not just confusion among supporters, it's confusion among some riders in terms of the mechanism and to the extent in which riders are now insured. So my understanding is that the insurance benefits and the process to insure riders has changed from, it used to be the case, and my understanding it's been the case forever, for decades and decades, that riders would have had personal accident insurance, often, if not always, provided by their clubs or event organisers. So any ACU licensed event, which is British Speedway in a nutshell, riders would have had personal accident insurance on a per heat and or per meeting basis. So clubs, Nigel, Carl, I'll ask you just to validate this in just a second. My understanding is that the mechanism was that clubs would deduct per heat an insurance premium. I believe it might even be £5.50 in recent seasons, and clubs would then aggregate those insurance premiums and send them off to the BSPL, and the BSPL would then aggregate those premiums and pay that on to the insurer. Let me just pause to sense check if that is remotely correct, Carol Johnson.
Yeah, that's how it's always been, really. I think even from my day, that's how it was. It's always sorted. The club, like you say, deducted money per heat for a rider, and it was obviously done by the club, sent off to the BSPA at the time and BSPL now, and that's how it was sorted. But even back when I was sort of doing my bit, I still took out a personal insurance for myself, and And I think at the time, the majority of riders done exactly the same. You know, at the end of the day, it's one of them things you follow somebody. You know, if Jason Crump has a different engine, you go on his engine, different carburetor. It was no different. Somebody had an insurance, you followed suit, and you had the same insurance. And I seem to remember it was an American company that I used to deal with my personal insurance. And I get the feeling that riders are not taking out a personal insurance now and just relying on the BSPL insurance.
Okay.
You know, I'm not sure if that's the case with them all, or whether there's a few doing it, or whether they have to do it. You know, it's one of them. I'm not really sure if they, you know, how they're going now with these insurances.
Nigel, I'll bring you in a second, Nigel. So just to set the scene a little bit, and again, Carol and Nigel, just listen to me, make sure that I'm not misleading or providing misinformation here inadvertently. So there are two agencies, two organisations at the heart of this. There is the BSPL, and as we've just discussed, historically, at least up until this season, my understanding is that, you know, BSPL clubs, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Bellevue, Sheffield, etc., those clubs would have deducted from a rider's pay on a per heat basis or a per meeting basis an insurance premium that the club would then send to the BSPL, I believe, and the BSPL would then aggregate and pass on that premium ultimately to the insurance company. The ECU, the Auto Cycle Union, is essentially the governing body of all motorsport in the UK, and you simply cannot ride competitive speedway unless you have an ECU licence. My understanding is that over this winter, over this close season, there's been a policy change in so much as part of a rider's ECU licence cost, there is now an added insurance premium. I don't think it amounts to very much. I think we're talking about 20, 30, 40 pounds. It's not a large sum of money, but there's an insurance premium built in to a rider's ECU licence purchase or renewal now, and that insurance provides a sort of baseline insurance cover for riders. Now, so Nigel, I'm going to bring you in on this. So outside looking in, reading some of the comments on social media, and offline, I've been very transparent. I've spoken to a couple of riders as well. I'm not going to name who they are, but the few riders that I've spoken to are quite confused as to what level of cover that they have if they didn't purchase their own personal or top up their own personal accident insurance. So if riders don't do that, to Carol's point, there's now some confusion as to what level of cover that they do have through the ACU licence piece versus what they used to have through a per heat, per meeting deduction by the clubs, Nigel.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I hate coming on here and being negative about Speedway because I'm as big a Speedway supporter as anybody there is. I think the biggest problem here is the deceit. The lads have not been told. And they've sort of fallen into it and found out about it by accident. And the insurance, from what I'm told by a couple, it is just, you know, take our own Simon Lambert. Simon rides Speedway. I don't say it's a hobby. It's a paid hobby where hopefully earns a few shilling, but also Simon has to go out to work to earn a living. If Simon gets earned at Speedway now, he's basically earning no money. Can't go to work unless, of course, with his own private insurance, which people have said, well, everybody should have their own private insurance. Yes, they do. Everybody probably has their own private insurance, but everybody also had the BSPA insurance, which was, Derek, as you say, about, I think it was £5.50 a race, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not 100%, I think it was £100 a week. Now I believe, yeah, not a deal at all now. Not a deal at all, if anything at all. The biggest problem is to see the promoters have not told the lads about it. And to find out when you get into a season, when you've already rode, look at Charles Wright. I don't know what position Charles is in. You know, has he got any insurance? Can he pay his mortgage? You know, and things like that. It's just an awful situation. We shouldn't have found ourselves in this position at this time of year. This should have all been sorted out long before now. You know, when the lads signed contracts, they should have been told. Whether all the promoters knew about it or not, I don't know, or whether it just the men at the top, the DSPA, I don't know. I suspect it maybe was. Because there are some good promoters out there, some genuine promoters out there, and then there are some dodgy ones. It's such a shame that we've got to this point where riders are talking like they are, and really we should all be just carrying on with the speedway, the season started, and we should all be looking forward to it.
And you know, Nigel, you said before you started speaking, and I want to echo it. You know, this discussion isn't. It's not one that we wanted to have. It's not one that I've got any pride in having. It does feel like washing our laundry and dirty laundry in public, but there are some real life implications here, and I don't know if it's just a communication issue or whether it's more than that. But I'm going to pose a few questions just through observation, right? So I don't know the answers to these things. I'm posing some questions. So the first one is, why didn't many riders realise about there'd been a change in policy? Why didn't riders realise that? So riders will now have been paying more for their ACU licence than they did last year. So did riders know why they were paying more? Did they know that now bought them some insurance? Did they know the level of insurance cover that bought them? Did they know what it didn't cover them for? Question, I don't know the answer to that. Outside looking in at some of the comments, I'm not sure that too many riders did understand that. Did the underlying insurance cover and the benefits change or not? So for example, you know, even if, and this might be the case, even if there is no material difference to what a rider is insured against, the fact that potentially there's been a change of insurer from company X to company Y normally means that policyholders would be notified about that. So are riders not reading their emails? Have they received emails that tell them all these things? I don't know. And the most concerning one, Nigel, is one that you've mentioned, is right here, right now. We've already had some meetings. There's meetings happening tonight. There's meetings happening this weekend. Are riders now, right here, right now, are they actively insured and sufficiently insured to race? Because, like I mentioned, you know, up until this year, riders were being deducted £5.50 per heat. So over the course of a 30 meeting season, that's £600 or £700 that a rider's effectively paid to be insured, versus this season all the paid extra is £30 as part of their ACU licence renewal. So that suggests to me that the benefits, the insurance cover, can't remotely be the same. They can't be. You can't pay £600 or £700.
Derek, the problem being, till possibly Plymouth went to pool on the Tuesday. Could that have been one of the first meetings of the year? I'm not sure. But until you have that first meeting and you realise they're not getting any money off for insurance. If you haven't been told, you don't know anything about it, do you?
Yeah. If riders hadn't been told, Nigel, then why would they think that something had changed? You just wouldn't know that. You just wouldn't think about it. Yeah.
That's right. I think the riders have been kept right in the dark about it. And now it's really, now at the season, at the part of the season where we should all be looking forward and talking positive. And once again, Speedway shoots it in the foot, doesn't it? So whatever reason, why everything been done, I don't know.
Carol, I'm being devil's advocate, right? So this is kind of blowing up. There's now an awareness about it. I dare say there must be conversations happening behind the scenes. If right here, right now, as we're having this discussion, Carol, riders aren't remotely insured to the same level that they expected to be or were historically, because they haven't yet purchased their own top-up or personal accident insurance. I guess my question is that likely to be the case given the fact that there's meetings happening tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, Carol?
Yeah, of course. It's, I find it very hard to believe that the ACU, the governing body, what they are, wouldn't put something out in the ACU licence form to state that there was insurance in that. Now I know, do you always read the small print on everything? No, you don't. Do Speedway riders read the small print on anything? No, they don't, because they don't even read their contracts with their clubs. So, the only bit that concerns them is pounds, shillings and pence that they're going to be paid. And I get that. And they probably all assumed that what's been happening for year on year was going to continue. Did they think that they're paying an insurance to the ACU to cover them, and they're also then going to pay their £5.50 per heat through the BSPL and actually come out of it slightly better than what they have been? Do the clubs know that that's what's happened? When they sit around at the AGM in November or January, February, whenever they had it this year, it's like, was that on the table? Was that point put across to all the promoters that there's going to be no insurance paid by the rider and it's going to be through the AC? And at that point, you would question. I would expect somebody of Mark's stature, having been a rider, to have gone, well, hang on a minute, these boys, if they get injured, are not going to get the cover that they should be. So something's broke down somewhere. Whether it's between the BSPL and the clubs, or the BSPL, the ACU and the clubs. I can't believe that there's not something in black and white from the ACU to say that there's going to be.
There is. My grandsons ride grass track and they have to buy a license. Yeah, and their license is £98, and they've got to know it's all there. It's nothing to do with the ACU. This is now the SPA.
Yeah, so
nothing to do with the ACU.
Have the BSPL turned around and said we're not going to pay the insurances because the ACU have brought in an insurance, which I find.
It just cannot be like for like insurance, Carol. It can't be.
No, it can't be. Well, look, if you went and paid your car insurance one year and it cost you £1,000, and the next year it went down to £50,
exactly,
you would then question. You would go, oh yeah, brilliant. I'm £950 better off in my pocket. But hang on a minute, if I have an accident, are they going to cover the cost of the damage? You would look at that and go, no, they're not, are they, for that? You're not getting the same cover. So I can't believe that other riders haven't picked up on it earlier. Certainly some of the smarter riders that we've got, like Scotty, to be fair, Scotty would potentially pick up on something like that.
I think, Carl, I don't think anybody's picked up on it until it's come to the meeting.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I think that's when we found out about it.
Can I ask you a question, Carl and Nigel? Because you'll know this much better than I do. So, up until this year, at least up until now, in a rider's contract, when a rider signs a contract with a club, with any club, would a rider expect or assume that in that contract the club are going to make a provision to insure that rider? Is that a kind of standard thing?
Yes. Yeah. Our contracts to our riders, when we done our contracts, always stated that it would include their insurance. Okay. It clearly stated that the things that we would pay for them, like if we was to provide the race suit, which we used to, so it's like your money's going to be X amount of pounds. You would be it would be a race suit. There would be provisions put in there, and insurance for meetings would be in their contract. Now, is that in riders' contract still, because they've basically just used the contract from last year and changed it to 26? I don't know, because we don't know I don't know that side of it now because obviously we're not involved.
But you might have expected that a rider somewhere amongst the 15 clubs in the land might have noticed that that's disappeared from the bit of paper that they're due to sign.
100%. I always remember one rider that we've had would pick up on every single little bit of information that was in that. When Peterborough, when Buster took over Peterborough, and the things that were going on, there was a contract out to all the riders that we signed that season, and it was ridiculous. We was offering them dirt deflectors and exhaust and covers and all this. There was one rider that was riding for us, Charles Wright, who I love dearly. He picked up on every single little bit, and he was like,
"Well done, Charles.
When do I get this? So there is riders that do go through their contracts with a fine tooth comb, and rightly so, because we've always said we all know how dangerous this sport is, and if you want the right insurance, obviously all it's going to do is put more pressure now on the Ben Fund, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because people are going to then go, we want, they're going to expect a bit more from them because they're not getting what they should be getting from the insurances, and that's wrong. The riders have always been prepared to pay £5.50 per race. Mm-hmm. There's not one complaint about the insurance because they know what the cover's for. Yeah. So, and I don't think they'd be in that position this year either. They would be happily, to pay £5.50, for every race, and that's what's always been involved in Speedway. And when something changes, and if they've not been told for whatever reason, we don't know, whether it's an oversight by somebody, it's wrong, isn't it? Because they shouldn't be in this position. It's hard enough for them now, and like Nigel says, if Charles Wright injured, and tried to claim on his insurance, and he can't cover costs of living, what's he do?
Well, I noticed as it happens, Charles has named will come up a few times. Apologies, Charles. Nigel, I read today that friends or supporters around Charles have launched a GoFundMe page. Now, reading the sort of wording within that GoFundMe message, it didn't sound like to repair bikes. It sounded like to assist Charles and his family. I'm reading into that wrongly, that maybe Charles has found himself out of insurance. I don't know if that's the case, but it's concerning if that's the case, Nigel.
It is. It's totally wrong, isn't it? I think there's a lot of deceit going on. Personally, I hope I'm wrong, but I think there's a lot of deceit going on. But I am also told today by a certain rider that the SPA have been in touch with them and said that they are trying to rectify this problem.
Okay.
They're trying to rectify it. They know they've caused the problem, don't they? Why did we cause this problem in the first place? Yeah. Why on earth? Somebody should be dragged over the coals for this, big time. Because, you've got Tobias Thompson, you've got Charles Wright. I don't know anybody else has got hurt. I hope not. And I hope nobody gets hurt tonight or any other night. But it's just totally wrong. And whichever promoter, somebody needs to all in over the coals for this to look after the sport of Speedway, because it's making it look a joke, isn't it?
Do you know, Nigel? I'm trying to be fair-minded about it. If it was an oversight, a genuine oversight, it's a big oversight and an impactful one, and a potentially a dangerous one.
But Derek, if you and me at work made a mistake like that, we would be sacked.
And the other thing,
make a mistake like that.
No, I agree with you, Nigel. And Carol, you mentioned this earlier on. If the policy change was intended to mean that riders should have been told that the arrangements were changing, and from now on the onus was on riders to take out their own level of insurance that they want to take out. If that was the intention, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the fact that riders didn't know about it is the issue, right?
Yeah, it's, obviously if riders have come out and said they didn't know and of the cover of what they're getting, it's obviously something that's not been told directly to the riders. It should have been a case of, we're not taking your £5.50 per race. You're going to have to sort yourself some insurance out. Look, things change. We know, insurances change, things like that, and the way things are at the minute. Then, is it such a bad thing that they don't pay the £5.50? Not really. It's a bad thing that the riders have not been told, so they've had enough time to source their own insurance if that's the case. We know everything's been dragged on so long this season, from last season to this season. Was it something that, like I say, was it a genuine mistake? But like Nigel says, if it's a genuine mistake, it should never have happened, and somebody should. I know the BSPL have come out and put a statement out, but they've basically, shut the gate after the horses bolted. It's like they've been sort of caught out, haven't they? And trying to backtrack. And if it's an honest mistake, then fair enough.
That's what it seemed like, Carl.
Yeah, and I don't, if there's enough bad press with British Speedway, we don't want any more bad press. We don't want somebody to get in trouble over it. They shouldn't need to. If it's just a genuine mistake and they're trying to rectify it, then fair enough. Hold your hands up and say it's a genuine mistake. The riders weren't informed. Yes, it's probably going to make them look silly for a period, but they've rectified a mistake then that's the mistake should never have been there. So luckily Ben's picked up on it and questioned it and put it in the public domain, which, in fairness to Ben, we know what Ben's like and he's quite vocal, but he's quite vocal.
But it's right this time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's right this time.
It's the right point to be vocal about. So you can't knock him for that, and people will support him for that decision, and rightly so. And it's these boys need as much help. We've always said this. They need as much help. Don't keep taking things away from them. This is their livelihood, as we know, and injuries happen in Speedway. You can't stop that, whatever you do. You're always going to get injuries, but let's make sure that the riders that do get injured are covered and can actually have some sort of standard of life while they're, sat doing nothing.
100%.
I mean, the figures I heard, if you got paralysed or anything like that, the figures I heard, what you get now, honestly, it's shocking. And I think we should finish it now because we need to get on to more positive Speedway, don't we? It's horrible talking down on it, isn't it? None of us like it because at the end of the day, we're all Speedway supporters.
Well, listen.
Let's see it right.
No, you're right, Nigel. And listen, I said earlier on, 360 is 1 year old. So for the last year, almost every week for a year, we've covered a whole range of subjects on 360. And I would like to think that the people who pay attention to what we say week on week will know by now that we love the sport and we only want the best for the sport. But we can't ignore anything that's slightly negative or that needs some attention, and this very much needs some attention. One thing I'd like to say, and I'm not talking distinctly about Ben Barker, although I very much include Ben in this. Ben has single-handedly perhaps opened some eyes. He's created some awareness around this. To your point, Nigel, if things are going to be addressed behind the scenes or are already being addressed, that's exactly the action that we need. But I don't want to see any rider being made an example of over this. I don't want any rider. I don't want to be reading about bans or suspensions or tribunals for Ben or for any other rider, quite frankly, because the significance and the potential severity of exposing this particular issue, I think merits the fact that something had to be addressed very, very quickly and awareness had to be created very, very quickly. And Ben, to his credit, in my opinion, has achieved that.
I think if it hadn't been true what Ben was saying, I think it'd have been a bit of horror before now. So obviously it is true, isn't it? And fair play, they're trying to rectify it, as they say, at the minute. So, and they need to come up with a satisfactory measure for the lads, don't they, at the end of the day?
See, just going back over this, I said about including it in a rider's contract. Right, I've got the contracts that I wrote up for Peterborough riders, and this contract was to Ben Cook when Ben Cook was riding for us at Peterborough, and it goes through obviously everything that we state, like tyre for every home meeting, his payment per point that he was going to get, payment for if he was in the top 5, it'd go up and things like that. Now, one of them in there, number 4, 20p a mile contribution towards his travel expenses from UK home address to a race venue. Race insurance per home and away meeting is included. So we always included that in the contract of the rider. And that's a contract that I've got here in front of me that I've just looked for because I knew I had it, to what was included in the rider's contract. So if he was a contracted rider to us, that's what would be included in his contract, that it clearly states is insurance, race insurance, home and away would be included.
Thank you, Carl.
And that get a bit misconstrued though there, Carl, when it says race insurance will be included. It is included, isn't it? It's included now.
Yeah. Well, yes, yeah, but this is our contract at Peterborough that we paid for. The riders are having to pay for their own insurance now through the ACU, whereas this was under contract to Peterborough Speedway. So we paid his race insurance home and away, and that contract was the same to every rider. Obviously, slightly variations to the contract, but that part was always included. So there was no way of us getting around of not paying it. It was always included. We always knew that we was paying the race insurance. The rider knew that we was paying the race insurance. So the rider never had to deal with that side of it. We always covered it, and it clearly stated it in his contract that he signed at the start of the season. So we covered ourselves, and I'm guessing that most other clubs would do exactly the same. They would include that into the rider's contract. Like I say, certain riders would read that contract word for word or letter for letter, and they would hold you to that contract every single day of the week.
Okay. Listen, it's good to have that validation, Carol. And sometimes, and listen, again, I'm being transparent. Sometimes I might begin to say a sentence here on 360, and I'm less than 100% certain about some of the things that I say. So it's good to have that validated. So listen, the main issue, or the main action, if something is already in track, a process, some conversations to repair something that needs repaired around this insurance issue, then obviously that's the most important thing, and hopefully riders imminently will be able to, if not immediately, will be able to take to track and at least have the reassurance in their own heads that they've got the same level of protection, personal accident protection, that they expect to have, and they still have the option to top that up by taking out some additional insurance. Nigel, you've got your glasses on. Are you reading something?
See now, Simon's going on.
Simon Lambert is at pool tonight as we have this conversation. How is he getting on?
He's finished with six tonight. Scunthorpe got a good hammering, so not too good for Scunthorpe. Simon finished up with 6.
6 points, well done, Lambo. That's not no mean feat to get 6 points at Wimborne Road. Listen, can I just appeal to you, please? Please be active for us. Do play a part in helping us to reach more and more Speedway fans. We love that you be as interactive as possible. Feel free to email us, to comment below any social media post, or indeed this video on our YouTube channel. Message us through our Facebook page. And remember, you can even WhatsApp us or send us a voice note on our dedicated WhatsApp number 0333 077244046. I've even discovered today how I can play out your voice notes quite easily. So, and please do give us that little thumbs up. We do try our best. Listen, my friends, that will do it for episode 14. I'm going to abort Fans Pulse Lap 3. We'll hold that over to next week. That's all about who Speedway needs to market to. We've done a bit of work, a bit of homework, and we've got some thought leadership to share, but we'll save that till next week. Hope you enjoyed this week's offering, talking to Tony Gall about all things Northampton Speedway, and to these two, Carol and Nigel, for taking us through and getting underneath the skin of the rider insurance issue that's currently surfaced in the sport. So listen, we will be back same time next week. Thank you, but incidentally, to you guys for not mentioning my holiday scalping, holiday haircut that I've got. It will grow back, I'm told, by my barber. I'm going on holiday in a couple of weeks' time. I've even got my new 360 Speedway t-shirt. Look at that. Available to purchase on 360-speedway.printify.me is the URL. You'll see a link on our social media as well. Go and have a browse through some of the 360 Speedway design t-shirts, and there's mugs and other stuff on there as well. All funds raised through any sales help to keep 360 Speedway on the air, quite frankly. But listen, Carol, really good to have you back, Carol Johnsons. Please don't be a stranger. Look forward to your company in the coming weeks. Nigel, as ever, you're an absolute trooper. Thank you for being here and for sharing your views on all things British Speedway, Nigel. You guys, if you're going to get trackside over the weekend or next week, I hope you enjoy yourselves. I hope your team wins. And we look forward to your company again, same time, same place, next week. Until then, goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.